Hello everyone, welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Friday, August 30th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks, which is going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. There is going to be one pitcher, four hitters in the core picks. And then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. That cheat sheet is 100% free. It can be found on Facebook, it can be found on Twitter, and it can be found on the YouTube community tab. But without further ado, we'll get started with the core picks for tonight's slate. We're going to start off at the pitcher position with George Kirby. He's $9,400, averaging just under 32 fantasy points per game. He goes against the Los Angeles Angels tonight. Should be a pretty favorable matchup. He has some pretty decent history versus them in the past, and he had 40 points versus them this year in 2024. Last year, he had two starts in 2023, one of 43 points and one of 16. So the 16 is kind of the down one there. George Kirby's been a little bit more hit or miss this season, but definitely do like the upside that he does present tonight overall. And with that being said, if we take a look at what he's done so far in the season, he's got 9 wins, ERA of 3.48, so pretty respectable there. Definitely do like the high-end upside of him once again tonight. It's kind of that mid-range price at the pitcher position, but if you want to pay up at pitcher, there is definitely some good options there. Pablo Lopez, Blake Snell, Framber Valdez, just to name a few. And then we'll get moved down to our hitters. We're going to start off at first base with Paul Goldschmidt. He's $3,100, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game. Goes against the New York Yankees and Marcus Stroman on the mound. He's done very well versus Marcus Stroman in the past. He is 11 for 27 with 3 home runs versus Marcus Stroman. And Paul Goldschmidt's on a modest 5-game hitting streak. 2 of those games have been multi-hit games, only 1 home run, but does have 3 double-digit performances. Kind of a down season for Paul Goldschmidt overall when we look at it. 236 average, 20 home runs, 54 RBIs, averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game on the season. $3,100, but definitely do like that upside versus Marcus Stroman tonight, and he's been hitting a little bit better as of late. Then we're going to move down to second base with Jazz Chisholm. You can also play him at third base and outfield, but did ultimately end up playing him at second base. He's $3,200, averaging over 11 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the St. Louis Cardinals. Eric Fedde, the expected starting pitcher for them tonight. He is 4 for 12 with 2 home runs versus Eric Fedde in his career. Jazz Chisholm is on a modest 3-game hitting streak. He has 1 multi-hit game during that time span, but does have 2 home runs, 2 double-digit performances, and all 3 games have been at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So some pretty decent floor for him once again. And if we look at what he's done so far in the season, 258 average, 22 home runs, 64 RBIs, averaging over 11 fantasy points per game at $3,200. Looks like a very viable option on tonight's slate once again. Then we're going to move down to the outfield with Corbin Carroll, $3,400, averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Los Angeles Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw. He's fared very well versus Clayton Kershaw in his career, 4 for 7 with 2 home runs. So some pretty good upside based on that history alone. He's on a modest 8-game hitting streak as we do speak. 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 4 home runs, so that's pretty good there. And then he also has 4 double-digit performances in 6 games of 9 fantasy points or more. So like the floor that's there with Corbin Carroll. Definitely love the upside, though, at $3,400. If we look at what he's done in totality on the season, 225 average, which is up quite a bit since you consider that he had a very, very slow start to the season. 17 home runs, 60 RBIs. Once again, averaging about 11 fantasy points per game at $3,400. And then last but not least, we're going to go with Giancarlo Stanton of the New York Yankees, $3,200. Going against the St. Louis Cardinals once again, and Eric Fedde on the mound. He is averaging just under 10 fantasy points per game. But in his career versus Eric Fedde, he is 5 for 7 with 1 home run. So some pretty good history there. Obviously, Eric Fedde's a little bit different pitcher than he has been in the past, but still like that upside from Giancarlo Stanton tonight. He has at least 1 hit in 5 out of his last 7 games, 1 multi-hit game during that time span, 3 home runs, and only 3 double-digit performances. So maybe a little bit more home run or bust tonight with Giancarlo Stanton. But on the season, he has a 238 average, 23 home runs, 57 RBIs, once again averaging just under 10 fantasy points per game at $3,200. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you'll have $12,700 remaining, just under $3,200 per player. So at this point in time, looks a little bit more like a balanced build type of day. Obviously, if you want to pay down at some spots, pay up at some other spots, you can do that as well. And then once again, if you want to pay up at that pitcher spot, that's definitely something you can do on tonight's slate overall as well. But with that being said, we'll get moving over my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. Once again, the cheat sheet is 100% free. It can be found on Facebook, it can be found on Twitter, and it can be found in the YouTube community tab. So definitely feel free to use it as a resource as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. But with that being said, the 4 teams that I do have to stack for tonight's slate overall, we got the Houston Astros going against Seth Lugo of the Kansas City Royals. Seth Lugo's pitched pretty well the last couple of years, but the Astros do have his numbers. So whether you want to play Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Alex Bregman, Yainer Diaz. A lot of different options from that team overall. Maybe a little bit more hit or miss to it just because Seth Lugo typically has pitched pretty well the last couple of years, but he has really struggled against this Astros team just in general. And then we move over to the Baltimore Orioles. They're going against Austin Gomber. Not much history here in the past versus him. Austin Slater is a guy that does have a ton of history versus him, though. And you got the course field effect here. So, maybe this game's a little bit more elevated, but still like the upside of this Orioles team overall. Then we have the Seattle Mariners. They're going against a rookie pitcher. I believe it's an Aldeguri. Probably mispronouncing his name. All I know is he came over from the Phillies in the trade for, I believe, Carlos Estevez. He's only had 6 starts at AA level. Some pretty good strikeout numbers there, but an elevated ERA, so it should be pretty good for this Mariners team tonight. And then last but not least, we have the New York Yankees going against Eric Fedde. Some pretty limited history versus him in the past, but some pretty good history at that. And obviously, like I mentioned, when we were talking about Giancarlo Stanton in the core picks, Eric Fedde's a little bit different pitcher than he had been in the past. So we haven't seen the Yankees versus the current version of Eric Fedde, so might be a little bit more hit or miss there, but at the same time, definitely do like the upside of this Yankees lineup overall. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of my core picks as well as top GPP teams to stack for today, Friday, August 30th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then as always, I'll be listing all the other updates down in the comment section as well, whether that is starting pitcher related, weather related, a lot of different options that could be out there kind of now at this point in the season. And then I will also be posting all these starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the late afternoon and early evening. So definitely be sure to check it out down in that comment section, especially as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. And then I also have my CFL DFS video coming out once a week, typically on Wednesdays. This week it will be coming out on Friday since the later start to the week in terms of games. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you're a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match on your first deposit up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.